Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak and join in this conference. I'm going to take it back to some basics here and just make sure everybody's aware of some of the basics about what we do as a water company and what we operate, so that you're all aware of some of those fundamental factors. First of all, we serve about 3 million people across Wales and also parts of England. Not the whole of Wales, but most of it. We have about 27,000 kilometres of water main, 36,000 kilometres of sewer, over 800 sewage treatment works, most of which are very small. About 69 water treatment works, and a figure I'll come on to later on, we have 2,300 storm overflows or combined storm overflows. We're not for profit. We don't have any, we do make profits, but they're always reinvested on behalf of our customers and the environment. We've no dividends, we're not publicly owned, except publicly owned. We're funded through borrowing at very low rates, and we have and our customer bills. That's what actually keeps us going. Our investment plans, you hear us talking about asset management plans, AMP plans. We're about to start into AMP 8. They run in these 5-yearly cycles, and we're waiting what's called the final determination. That's due on the 19th of December. That'll tell us what we have got and what we haven't got for investment in the next 5 years. And there's a lot of deals. Take us quite some time to work through that because it's a huge document with a lot of detail. And we're regulated principally by Ofwat, Drinking Water Inspectorate, Natural Resources Wales and the Environment Agency. Just again, a few basics, just make sure everybody's clear about this. There are two types of effectively discharge that we have. One is the foul sewage, all those things we flush down the toilet, etc., and water that runs off roofs and rain and roads where we've got an area served by combined sewerage systems. They all come through to the sewage works, they're treated to whatever the standard is currently required to meet for that particular river. And that normally is set in terms of what that river needs. But when we get a lot of rainfall, particularly after heavy rainfall, but in some cases after lighter rainfall, we know that, we have the point where we have to stop that sewage from backing up in the sewage network and discharging to and flooding people's homes. And what happens is we have these combined sewer overflows or storm overflows that discharge the excess into the environment in order to protect homes and houses. So how can we improve water quality? Well, there's quite a lot we can do. It's actually a really good news story. That's why we have this huge investment programme coming. We're planning to invest about £2.5 billion over the next 5 years if we get all the money that we have asked for. That's about £1 billion in terms of operating and maintaining what we need to do, and another £1.5 billion to make things better. We can improve the water quality of what we're discharging from our sewage works. We can reduce the amount that we discharge from our storm overflows by storage. We can improve what comes out by things like additional screening. But more from my focus really are those last two options, the sustainable options. We need to stop some of the rainwater that's getting into our sewage network in the first place, because that's the only reason why storm overflows should operate, is because we've got too much rainfall and runoff getting in. And then the other point is catchment interventions, both interventions like nature-based solutions, which I'll talk about again in a moment, plus interventions to actually hold the water back within our catchments, to let it run off those catchments slower so that we've got good catchments and good catchment environments to actually protect the area that we work in. A figure that should be on here, sorry, I left it off, my fault, I think is really important. We have about 44% of Welsh rivers meeting good ecological status. It's a huge challenge, an enormous challenge to get that up to where it should be, which is really, we should be looking for 100%. An enormous, we're a bit better than England, which is about 14% at the moment, but it is still an enormous challenge for Wales. We cannot do that on our own. We've got this big investment plan, and one of my big aims here is really to talk about collaboration. How can I collaborate? How can I work with others in order to get the best outcomes from our investment, from the investment my customers are giving me to invest on their behalf and on behalf of the environment? So just a few examples of the investment that we've got lined up in the next 5 years. We've got about 133 million of further investment in phosphorus removal. That's on top of, we've just finished about another 55 odd million in phosphorus removal in the Y. We've got about, we've just finished about £500 million total investment over the last year. We've got the figure there, sorry, unfortunately is the wrong way around. That should actually read 789 million, because that's what we're actually investing in the next AMP period. We've invested 140 million in the AMP period that's just finishing at the end of this March. And if our plans go ahead, we would look to invest a further 200 million if we get all the things that we think we need in order to be able to sustain that. So that figure could be up to £1 billion in storm overflow improvements over the next 5 years. And we really want nature-based solutions. So what we did in Llanelli, what we've worked on here with Cardiff Council at Green of Grangetown, working in partnership with local authorities for sustainable drainage, working in partnership with our regulators, with local landowners as well for nature-based solutions. The kinds of things that were mentioned before, how can we turn this into a biological removal instead of actually just chemically removing everything with the high carbon cost that comes with that. And the final point I just want to make is about data transparency. I think that's one of the things we're really moving on. You've seen the story this morning. That's partly because we put in new monitoring. We found there was a problem, oh dear, and we fixed it, okay? Hands up, we were getting it wrong, but we didn't even know we were getting it wrong before. And I think that's a direction of travel. More monitoring, more transparency, more sharing of information, more support for things like citizen science, more support for really helping sort of really committed organisations that want to improve our environment. We've been monitoring our storm overflows gradually now, increasing the coverage up to about 2020. We finished our coverage of storm overflows, and virtually everything is monitored. And we've been publishing that data since 2016. We've been voluntarily sharing information with SAS. I started it off for Welsh Water back in 2011 with 3 beaches in the west, and we're now sharing that out with everybody. But we've now got a live map of our storm overflow operation. It's near real time, so it's about an hour afterwards. And sometimes our monitor might be wrong, so you might have something recorded here which isn't correct. So what you actually see published at the end of the year is following verification. So don't look for exact match up between this and the actual data. And an important last factor here is all we monitor is storm overflows starting and stopping. It doesn't distinguish between the volume being discharged. So you can have a 6-inch diameter storm overflow, or a storm overflow you could drive a bus down. It doesn't actually distinguish between the two. A storm overflow spill is counted equally in terms of those numbers. And that's it really. So thank you very much, and I'll pass you on.